Good day, I am Raifara Palor.
I am Mevel Quijano.
And I'm Wesley Mahestad.
And we are here to present our research entitled Local Residents' Attitude Towards Conservation of Tourism Destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro. The objective of this study was to determine the level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro in terms of environmental sustainability, social impacts, economic benefit, community participation, and visitor satisfaction. Chapter 3 Results. Presented in this chapter are the data and results of the study. The level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro was presented below with its corresponding indicators. Level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations. Shown in Table 1 are the mean scores for the indicator of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, with an overall mean of 4.74, described as very high with a standard deviation of 0.388. The rating could be an attribute given by the respondents in all indicators. This means that the respondents' responses to the local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro are very high in environmental sustainability, social impacts, economic benefit, community participation, and visitor satisfaction. The cited overall mean score was the result gathered from the following computed mean scores from highest to lowest. 4.80 or very high for visitor satisfaction with a standard deviation of 0.373. 4.78 or very high for economic benefit with a standard deviation of 0.344. 4.73 or very high for environmental sustainability with a standard deviation of 0.401. 4.70 or very high for social impacts with a standard deviation of 0.398, and 4.68 or very high for community participation with a standard deviation of 0.411. The indicator with the highest mean that has been very much observed was visitor satisfaction. This means that the participation of local residents in the conservation of tourism destination produced a pleasant experience for tourists. This also means that with the conservation of the destination, they still provides quality services and provides the needs and wants of the visitors while maintaining a clean and safe environment both to locals and the tourists that greatly satisfies their experience while staying at the destination. Also, economic benefit was very much observed. This means that the conservation maximizes the economic benefit of the locals in the destination. It generates new income and provides job opportunities for the locals. Therefore, conservation shows that tourism has been considered as easy access to improving a local community as a better place to improve the quality of life of the locals. This is followed by environmental sustainability, which has been viewed as an indicator that obtained the third highest mean score. This means that the local residents observed that the conservation helps in minimizing environmental destructions while protecting the wildlife and natural habitats. Thus, it also contributes to environmental protection that provides a better environment for the locals. Meanwhile, the statistical result shows that social impacts was also very much observed. This means that the indicator was also a great factor that affects the local residents' attitudes towards the conservation of tourism destination. The respondents display a fair response that shows the conservation has been a great help in increasing the interaction between locals and tourists while maintaining a balance and harmony in the destination to avoid overcrowding that helps to provide comfort and security both to locals and tourists. Lastly, the indicator that the respondents observed very much was the community participation. This means that the conservation encouraged full participation of the local community in the development of policies and decisions for the success of the conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan. Overall result has been very significant because it determines the current situation and the local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro. The researchers sought answer in terms of environmental sustainability, social impacts, economic benefit, community participation, and visitor satisfaction. Shown in Table 2 is the mean score for the environmental sustainability with the item 1. The conservation helps in minimizing environmental destruction with a mean score of 4.82 and the standard deviation is 0.382 with a descriptive level of very high. Item 2 helps in protecting wildlife and natural habitats with a mean score of 4.70 and the standard deviation is 0.460 and the descriptive level is very high. In the item number 3, helps in promoting positive environmental ethics both to locals and tourists with a mean score of 4.75 and the standard deviation is 0.422 and the descriptive level is very high. In the item number 4, helps in developing harmony with the natural and cultural environment with a mean score of 4.71 and the standard deviation is 0.455 and the descriptive level is very high. And the item number 5 contributes to the environmental protection and dynamic conservation with a mean score of 4.69 and the standard deviation is 0.463 and the descriptive level is very high. The overall result is the mean score 4.73, the standard deviation 0.401 and the descriptive level for the environmental sustainability is very high.
Presented in Table 3, mean for social impacts. Item number 1 avoids the overusage of the community's recreational resources with mean score of 4.80 and standard deviation of 0.398 and with descriptive level of very high. Item number 2 helps in increasing the interaction between locals and tourists with mean score of 4.68 and standard deviation of 0.469 with descriptive level of very high. Item number 3 avoid overcrowding to maintain the balance and harmony in the destination with mean score of 4.61 and standard deviation of 0.489 with descriptive level of very high. Item number 4 helps in providing comfort and security for the locals and tourists with mean score of 4.70 and standard deviation of 0.460 with descriptive level of very high. Item number 5 provides leisure and recreational activities to the locals and the tourists with mean score of 4.70 and standard deviation of 0.441 with descriptive level of very high. Overall mean score is 4.70 and standard deviation is 0.398 with a descriptive level of very high. Presented in Table 4, mean for economic benefits with item number 1 contributes to improving the quality of life of the locals with mean score of 4.86 and standard deviation of 0.351 with descriptive level of very high. Item number 2 generates new income for the locals with mean score of 4.78 and standard deviation of 0.415 with descriptive level of very high. Item number 3 provides job opportunities for the locals with mean score of 4.78 with a standard deviation of 0.413 and descriptive level of very high. Item number 4 generates revenues for the local government with mean score of 4.76 and standard deviation of 0.426 with descriptive level of very high. And item number 5 helps in developing a new target market for local products with mean score of 4.71 and standard deviation of 0.453 with descriptive level of very high. Overall mean score is 4.78 and standard deviation is 0.344 and descriptive level is very high.
Table 5, mean for community participations. Item 1 strengthens the development of policies that support the role of local community in the conservation system with a mean score of 4.70, standard deviation 0.458 and the descriptive level is very high. Item 2 acknowledges the value and importance of the local community in the conservation system with a mean score of 4.63, standard deviation 0.484, and descriptive level is very high. Item 3 gives opportunities to the locals to voice out their ideas and decisions that support the conservation of the destination with a mean score of 4.66, standard deviation 0.476, and descriptive level is very high. Item 4 encourages full participation of the local community in tourism-related decisions for the success of the conservation of the destination with a mean score of 4.62, standard deviation 0.86, and descriptive level is very high. Item 5 helps in creating activities that educate the local community about the importance of their participation in the conservation of the destination with a mean score of 4.67, standard deviation 0.470, and descriptive level is very high with the overall result with a mean score of 4.66, standard deviation 0.411, and descriptive level is very high. Table 6. Mean for visitor satisfaction. Item 1 provides the needs and wants of the visitors in the destination with a mean score of 4.84, standard deviation 0.370, and the descriptive level is very high. Item 2 helps to boost the tourist satisfaction with the activities relating to the conservation of the destination with a mean score of 4.77, standard deviation 0.422, and descriptive level is very high. Item 3 provides a clean and safe environment both to locals and the visitors to satisfy their visit at the destination with a mean score of 4.81, standard deviation 0.393, and descriptive level is very high. Item 4 provides goods and services that satisfy the experience of the visitors with a mean score of 4.77, standard deviation 0.149, and descriptive level is very high. Item 5 provides honest and sincere accommodation to the visitors with a mean score of 4.83, standard deviation 0.373, and descriptive level is very high. Overall result mean score of 4.080, standard deviation 0.373, and descriptive level is very high.
Chapter 4. This chapter presented the data on local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destination in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro, and the discussions are based on the findings in the previous section. Level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan. The level of local residents' attitude towards conservation was very high. This indicates that the local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan is very much observed in terms of environmental sustainability, social impacts, economic benefit, community participation, and visitor satisfaction. Environmental sustainability pertains to the environmental protection to prevent destructions and deterioration of the natural resources. Social impacts refers to the effect on local people as a result of the interaction between locals and the tourists in the destination. Economic benefit emphasizes the benefit of the local residents in terms of money generated from the tourism destination. Community participation refers to the value and importance of the local community participation in the conservation of the destination, and visitor satisfaction, which pertains to the overall experience of the visitors while staying at the destination. These factors are very much observed in the local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro.
This finding relates to the Steadilist theory of 2017, which notes that in order to emphasize the importance of local residents' attitude towards the conservation of tourist destination, it had been reported that not only do they have an effect on local residents' support for tourism development, but they also have a major impact on the expectation of tourists in the destination. In several cases, the direct and the indirect effects of the conservation of tourism destination have an effect on the everyday lives of local people. While some of these impacts may not be readily understood by local residents as a result of tourism development, their consequences may lead to substantial changes in the lives of local residents. In terms of environmental sustainability, which was classified very high by local residents, this means that the attitude of local residents towards conservation is very much observed. This is in line with RIC of 2020, which states that in order for local people to enjoy and appreciate the nature that encourages conservation, environmental sustainability has a very strong positive impact because it helps locals in the destination. Environmental sustainability focuses on the general viability and well-being of environmental structures. To ensure that tourism as protected areas is sustainable, it must first and foremost contribute to the protection of nature over the long term, not just temporarily or sporadically, and ensure that conservation is not threatened by insufficient or inadequately treated by locals and tourists. With regards to social impacts that were also observed to be very strong by local residents, this is indicative of the statement of Kumar et al. Of 2017 that interactions between local communities and tourists have a positive effects on the conservation of a tourist destination in terms of generating opportunities, bringing social harmony, incorporating various cultures, and negative ways in the form of related problems. Conservation increases the quality of life in the area by increasing the number of attractions, leisure opportunities, and services. It also provides opportunities for residents to meet interesting people, make friends, learn about the environment, and open themselves to new perspectives.
Conservation benefits from the positive social impacts of tourism. Awareness on conservation issues in and around specific protected areas aimed at visitors and local residents can increase their support for conservation. For visitors and residents, engagement in tourism activities can increase awareness and concern about the local hazards, conservation issues, and management solutions. They have a role to play in offering tourism experiences that promote conservation through the promotion of increased awareness, the expression of positive attitudes towards conservation issues, and the promotion of environmentally friendly actions and philanthropy. Weaver 2018. Following this was the economic benefit that was considered to be the third highest variable for local residents' approach to the protection of Pindasan tourist destinations. The preservation of the destination was therefore a great help to the quality of life of the locals. The focus of is to create more local jobs and to improve their standard of working in the conservation of the tourism destination. It gives local people more chances to set up their own companies in areas connected with tourism. The protection of tourism destinations through economic growth, job creation, and development of infrastructure significantly benefits local communities. Tourism income brings economic growth and wealth to the tourist destination that have helped to improve local people's living standards. Local residents generally view tourism in the region positively. especially as a result of economic benefits, including employment, which is by far the most important benefit that the locals can gain. The local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destination was considered very strong when it comes to community participation. This means that the participation of local community is essential for the success of conservation of tourism destination. As an understanding of the attitudes and perceptions of local communities and how these perceptions are shaped about maintaining tourism destination is a worthy information for decision makers. The local community is the key party as the protection of tourist attractions is affected most positively or negatively by the locals and tourists. Conservation strengthens the positive feeling of local people within the community and makes it easier for them to contribute to the sustainability of tourism as they see how it supports the local community. Ishiki 2018 noted that the degree of community participation in tourism is strongly linked to the perceived impact of tourism, and concluded that the participation of local communities is associated with the personal benefits they will receive from tourism. This explains the attitude and participation of local community on the basis of the benefits achieved, whether they are economic, sociocultural, or environmental. If the cost is greater than benefit, residents will oppose to tourism, but if they can benefit from this activity with no large cost, they are likely to support it. In the same sense, visitor satisfaction was also seen as very high in the conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro. This implies that the conservation happening right in Pindasan, which visitors to the destinations were very satisfied all through their stay to Pindasan because the place was safe and clean during their stay and produces services that exceed the expectations of the tourists. This connects to Melson and Murphy 2015, which stated that the positive attitudes of locals and visitors towards the conservation of tourism destinations are supposedly associated with the higher levels of satisfaction. The viability of tourism as a conservation tool itself is based on an understanding of tourism products and services that the visitors desire and on the ability to produce visitors with high quality experience while staying at their destination. The overall satisfaction of visitor will influence the likelihood of repeat visitation, extended length of stay, increased expenditures, increased yield, and word of mouth referrals.
Conclusion. On the basis of the findings of the study, conclusions are drawn in this section. The level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro is very high in all indicators of environmental sustainability, social impacts, economic benefits, community participation, and visitor satisfaction. The overall mean is very high for the level of local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan. This also indicates that the attitude of the local residents towards conservation is very much observed. Recommendation. In the light of foregoing findings and conclusion, the following recommendations are offered. The very high level of local residents' attitude towards conservation can be maintained in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro if the local government unit will maintain their support to the local residents and to the conservation process. In addition, they may conduct more activities and programs that would further support and highlight the importance of the conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, while at the same time, the local residents will also benefit from the conducted program. In that way, it will maintain the positive attitude and support that the local residents gives to the conservation of the destination. The local government unit can also benefit from that because it can generate new business opportunities and new income both to locals and the government. Moreover, the LGU may conduct surveys to the visitors and the locals about activities and programs which in relation to the conservation of tourism destination that would help to boost the market demand of the tourist destination in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro. That ends the presentation of the local residents' attitude towards conservation of tourism destinations in Pindasan, Mabini, Davao de Oro. Thank you.